I was like a crazed wolf. Chikatilo, 56, told the Rostov court in his statement last week. There was no remorse in his voice. If anything, he sounded proud that he, quote, just turned into a beast, into a wild animal. The Rostov Ripper, the monster the Soviets ignored. It's 1978 in the Soviet Union, a land where secrets fester behind the Iron Curtain. In the quiet town of Shakhty, near Rostov, a 9-year-old girl named Yelena Zakotnova vanishes on her way home. Days later, her body is found, stabbed to death, her innocence stolen by a monster who would kill again and again for over a decade. His name was Andrei Chikatilo, a man who murdered at least 52 women and children, earning the name the Rostov Ripper. In a country that denied serial killers could exist, one detective risked everything to stop him, uncovering a nightmare that shattered the Soviet illusion. Welcome to Legends Unveiled, where we unravel the deepest mysteries of history. Tonight, we journey into the frozen shadows of the USSR to uncover the chilling truth of the Rostov Ripper, the Soviet serial killer who shocked the world. Scene 2. The Soviet Union, a land of denial. The Soviet Union in the late 1970s was a land of control, where the Communist Party ruled with an iron fist. Crime, especially serial murder, was dismissed as a Western problem, a product of capitalist decay. In this world, admitting a serial killer could exist was unthinkable, a stain on the Soviet ideal of a perfect society. But beneath this facade, darkness thrived. Andrei Chikatilo was born in 1936 in Ukraine, a child of famine and war, his early life marked by the horrors of the Holodomor and personal struggles, including sexual dysfunction and rage. By 1978, Chikatilo was a married man with 2 children, a former teacher turned factory clerk, but behind his unassuming exterior lurked a predator, ready to unleash a 12-year reign of terror. Scene 3, the first kill, a pattern emerges. On December 22, 1978, Chikatilo committed his first murder. He lured 9-year-old Yelena Zakotnova to a shed in Shakhty, promising her candy. There he tried to assault her, but unable to perform, he stabbed her to death in a frenzy, later confessing he found release in the act of killing. This horrific pattern, luring vulnerable victims, attempting assault, and killing in a rage, became his signature. Over the next 12 years, Chikatilo murdered at least 52 people, targeting women, boys, and girls at train stations and bus stops, places where the lost and desperate gathered. He'd lead them into wooded areas, kill them with a knife, and mutilate their bodies, often engaging in cannibalism, leaving behind a trail of unimaginable horror. Scene 4. The investigation begins, a detective against the system. By 1982, bodies were piling up in the Rostov region, and forensic expert Viktor Burakov was called in to investigate. Burakov quickly realized they were dealing with a serial killer, but the Soviet system fought him at every turn. The Communist Party refused to admit a serial killer could exist in their utopia, denying Burakov the resources he needed. They insisted the killer must be a homosexual or a foreign deviant, interrogating thousands of innocent men while the real monster roamed free. Soviet forensics were limited. Blood and semen typing were imprecise, and there was no centralized database for profiling. Burakov faced a nightmare of bureaucracy, but he wouldn't give up, even as the body count grew. Scene 5. A killer slips through, the 1984 mistake. In 1984, Chikatilo was finally caught, spotted acting suspiciously at a Rostov train station. but a catastrophic error let him slip away. A blood semen test failed to match him to crime scene evidence due to a rare biological anomaly. His blood type didn't match his semen type. The Soviet system, already stretched thin, released him, and Chikatilo disappeared into the shadows, free to kill for another 6 years. During this time, he claimed dozens more lives, each murder more brutal than the last, while Burakov watched helplessly, his pleas for help ignored by a system more concerned with saving face than saving lives. Scene 6, a breakthrough profiling the monster. Desperate for answers, Burakov turned to psychiatrist Alexander Bukhanovsky, who created a groundbreaking psychological profile of the killer. Bukhanovsky identified the murderer as a necrosadist, someone who derived sexual pleasure from killing and mutilating corpses. The profile described a man in his 40s, likely married, with a mundane job, hiding his rage behind a normal facade. It was a chillingly accurate portrait of Chikatilo, but without the technology or political will to act on it, the investigation stalled. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union was changing. Gorbachev's reforms in the late 1980s brought glasnost and perestroika, forcing the government to face the truth they'd long denied. Scene 7, The Trap, Chikatilo's final capture. By 1990, with political pressure mounting, Burakov devised a plan. He flooded most railway stations, Chikatilo's hunting grounds, with uniformed officers to scare him off, while leaving 3 smaller stations under surveillance by undercover agents. On November 20th, 1990, it worked. An officer spotted Chikatilo at one of the stations just days after he'd killed his final victim, 22-year-old Svetlana Korostik. Chikatilo was arrested, and this time, he wouldn't escape. Evidence like a knife and rope tied him to the crimes, but he denied everything, forcing investigators into a battle of wits to break him. Scene 8, The Confession, a Monster Unmasked. For 7 days, Chikatilo stonewalled investigators, refusing to confess. But Burakov had one last card to play, psychiatrist Alexander Bukhanovsky. Bukhanovsky sat with Chikatilo and read his psychological profile aloud, detailing the killer's deepest motivations, his sexual frustrations, his need to kill. It was too much for Chikatilo. He broke down, confessing to 56 murders, though he was charged with 53. He described each killing in horrifying detail, revealing a mind consumed by darkness. The Rostov Ripper's reign of terror was finally over, but the scars he left behind would never heal. Chikatilo's trial began in April 1992, just months after the Soviet Union's collapse. It was a spectacle unlike anything Russia had seen, broadcast to a nation grappling with its new reality. Chikatilo ranted, exposed himself, and claimed to be a victim of a conspiracy, but the evidence was overwhelming. On October 14, 1992, he was convicted of 52 murders and sentenced to death. On February 14, 1994, Andrei Chikatilo was executed with a single gunshot to the head in Novocherkassk prison. His nightmare finally ended. Scene 9, The Legacy, a case that changed history. The Rostov Ripper case left an indelible mark on history. It exposed the Soviet Union's denial of serial crime, the failures of its justice system, and the bravery of men like Viktor Burakov, who fought against impossible odds to stop a monster. The case inspired Robert Cullen's book, The Killer Department, and the 1995 film Citizen X, bringing Chikatilo's crimes to a global audience. It also revolutionized criminal profiling in Russia, forcing a nation to confront the darkness within its borders. Today, Chikatilo remains one of history's most infamous killers, a reminder of what happens when ideology blinds us to the truth. Over 30 years have passed since Andrei Chikatilo's execution, but the echoes of his crimes still haunt the Rostov region. Was he a product of a broken system, a man whose darkness was ignored until it consumed 52 lives, or a monster who would have killed anywhere, anytime? The forests where he hunted are quiet now, but the shadows hold their secrets close, a chilling reminder that some evils can hide in plain sight. What do you think? Was Chikatilo a symptom of Soviet failure or a darkness all his own? Drop your theory in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more journeys into the unknown, right here on Legends Unveiled.